been more than 20 years since he rose to fame as one half of a comedy duo called Armstrong and...
Miller. And since then, Ben Miller has gone from BAFTA-winning actor to best-selling author with his series of children's books. And today, he's talking to us ahead of the release of his third children's book, The Day I Fell Into a Fairy Tale. Good morning, Ben. Good to see you.
Good morning. It's both.
But now, Ben, we know your previous two books were written for your children, kind of about your children. So this third book is for your daughter, Lana. Is that right? How old is Lana and why have you written this?
Well, Lana's actually 5 now, but she's 9 in the story. And it came about because I was wondering what was going to happen. Lana and her brother, Harrison, are very close. And it came about, I was wondering what was going to happen when Harrison goes to secondary school and Lana's still at primary school. So in the story, basically, Lana has lost her playmate. Harrison's now very serious and he wants to do his homework in the evenings and she doesn't have anyone to play with. And this mysterious supermarket called Grimm's appears at the edge of the village on the village green, and she discovers there's a trap door in the pick and mix that leads to the land of fairy tales. And of course, in the land of fairy tales is a witch and she needs her brother's help to defeat the witch, and it brings them back together as a family.
Grimm's as in the Brothers Grimm?
Exactly. I just love those. When I grew up on Grimm's fairy tales, or those traditional versions of fairy tales, and I think they're so important for children. And I really wanted to have a story where I introduced children to, one or two of the most well-known traditional fairy tales.
Except, my friend, I want to ask you this: being 2020 and whatever, how sanitised would your tales be compared to the original Grimm Brothers stories that you researched?
I did, yeah. Well, I think that fairy tales are really, really useful to children. I think because they're so much larger than life, kings and queens, princesses, dragons, talking animals, children know that this isn't the real world. And that's why they are such a safe space for them to deal with normal fears that they might have. So I think there's so much in traditional fairy tales, so much. The reason the magic is there, these magical worlds, is to reassure children that, it doesn't take anything more than their own heart and courage and wit to be able to triumph in life. Yeah. That's basically the message of every fairy tale. And I think that's a great message for kids.
And has Lana read it? Did you run any of it past her? Did she help with any of it?
Yeah. She hasn't got much choice. Yeah, so she was a captive audience. Also because I was writing it in lockdown, so there was no getting away from it. And also Lana is 5, and she doesn't find any of this story scary. So I think the idea is that there has to be a villain in any good story, and in this case it's a witch. But it's sort of how you deal with it, really. It's got to be a little bit scary, but just scary enough for a child to feel that they could triumph.
But Ben, what makes the difference, and I don't know if you do this or not, is the voice. I am the best fairy tale storyteller there is ever. I have 4 children. And I do the most amazing voices for the big bad wolf and whatever. And he huffed and he puffed and he blew their house down. I can do everything. None of them, and the eldest is now 30 years of age, appreciated my voices. Not one of them down through the years.
Tell him to stop.
It's funny you mentioned that, because last night I was reading my daughter a story in which there was a prince. And I sort of found myself, the princess obviously it was the Rapunzel story. The princess is going to kiss the prince. I found myself slightly resenting that. So I gave the prince a really sort of doofus, a kind of sort of slightly posh boy, but it's sort of... And my daughter stopped me and she said, "Daddy, he sounds really silly. Make him sound more handsome."
Well, look, brilliant. All the signs are there. All the stories are there. It's Ben Miller, The Day I Fell Into a Fairy Tale. It is fabulous. Good luck with it, Ben. Nice talking to you.
Thanks so much, guys. Lovely to see you.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you very much.